Edwards, Director of Client Success at VHT Studios. And today I'm at this magnificent home of Allan Dalton. Thank you for inviting us, Allan.
Lucy, you're very welcome to be in our home. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. And let me introduce you formally. So Allan Dalton is the Senior Vice President of Research and Development of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services and HomeServices of America. And you are also a former CEO of Realtor.com. You have so many amazing titles. You had such a journey. So I can't even name all of them because we'll have dinner together. So why don't you share with us what's the most important and closer to your heart?
Well, Lucy, because I am in research and development, that would suggest that obviously I live in the present and look towards the future. So the most important titles are the titles that I presently have, that being in research and development. And the reason that's so important is because I believe that research and development is often overlooked within the real estate industry. Of note is the fact that last year alone, I think Facebook invested over $25 billion into research, and Google over $30 billion in research. So I'm not expecting the real estate industry to invest billions of dollars, but I think we need to become more dedicated to research as it relates to research and development.
And as many people as I had interviewed, I can tell you never did I have an opportunity to discuss research and development. Can we just talk about a few major points?
Yeah, well, you know, I think that the industry is always concerned about words like disruption. 20, 30 years ago, the focus was on disintermediation, although that never took place, but although we had buying side disruption, but we've survived that and we're still very viable. And if somebody is going to be prepared, if somebody's going to preemptively inoculate themselves from the potential threats of disruption, then that requires research, strategizing. And the industry can do a better job at that because we could be accused of, at times, not being prepared for change. For example, we actually resisted the internet, and very few other sectors of society resisted it. Most welcomed it, but we resisted it. Our industry resisted IDX. The consumers love IDX. And so those are just indicators that we can do a better job of planning and strategizing for the future and any and all threats, but even more importantly, seizing upon opportunities.
That's well said. Let me tell you, I guess it is a great need and an investment needed, not just financial, but also human resources and great ideas, right?
That's correct. And you know, Gino Blefari, the chairman of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services and the CEO of HomeServices of America, made that very point. He said, we've got to be more committed to research and development, as well as now Christy Budnick, our CEO of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. They are completely committed to everything that happens within our research and development division. And they recognize that we have to be proactive, we have to be forward thinking. We just can't rest on the laurels of the brand or our great brokerages. And so it's exciting for me to be in an environment with forward thinking, progressive professionals.
And you just mentioned brand. Brand and reputation is extremely important. Agents join certain companies because of their brand. They use the brand and company's reputation in their listing presentations in everyday life. How would you differentiate the brand from one company to the other? And how would you use and suggest, recommend to your agents to use the brand in their life?
Well, there's different types of brands. There's different types of real estate brands. There are brands that are more what we call B2B brands. Okay, these are companies whose brand didn't mean much or anything to the consumer, but they created very enticing offerings to agents, and they're known as B2B, business to business brands. But then there's business to consumer brands, and Berkshire Hathaway Home Services is both a B2B and a B2C brand, because we're very progressive and we appeal to top agents throughout the industry, but we also resonate with the consumer. And it's very important, perhaps now more than ever, to resonate with the consumer, because there's a trust gap in the world. I think in the 1950s, 58, something like 85% of all consumers trusted institutions. And today it's less than 20%. And our brand, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, portrays and resonates in terms of trust. In fact, we have 4 foundational values within the organization: trust, integrity, stability, and longevity. So those are our brand's core values and our virtues. And so that basically sets the tone, and that informs the culture, because we want to make sure that all of our realtor associates are trusted and basically understand that we're also a brand that represents stability, integrity, and longevity.
That is incredible. I greatly appreciate. You definitely have a very strong brand, and your agents are using it and they're proud of it. And as a result, they are very successful. So I'm sure it's used also in the everyday retaining and recruiting directions for your manager position and for your leadership.
Well, you mentioned recruiting and retention, and one thing that I really appreciate about our leadership is that Christy Budnick, her philosophy is that we don't want to be a brand that is known for recruiting and retention. Berkshire Hathaway Home Services wants to be known because our focus, instead of recruiting and retention, is on selection and development. I mean, think about it. The only organization that uses the word recruiting more than the real estate industry would be the military, God bless them. And the only organization that uses the word retention as much as the real estate industry would be the prisons.
Oh my goodness.
So therefore, we want to go beyond recruiting and retention and into the realm of selection and development. Because if you're really selecting people for the right reasons, you're going to retain them. If you're developing people, you're going to retain them. Otherwise, it's just a revolving door based upon those 2 words, recruiting and retention. And the emphasis on the word recruiting also suggests to many real estate populations within brokerages that you're basically an interchangeable widget. We just want to keep recruiting and recruiting and recruiting, as opposed to you're part of a select organization.
And you invest your energy in the education. They're being flourished every day and grow their business because they are independent professionals. So basically, yes, you shouldn't even be recruiting someone who is an independent.
Well, that's exactly what we're looking for. Is that we introduced this year the concept of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services not only being forever agents, but taking a pledge. And that's important because in my research, I saw that hundreds of corporations and companies ask people to take an oath or a pledge, as do Supreme Court justices, presidents, Royal Mounted Police in Canada. All over the world, people take oaths and pledge based on the importance of how they serve others. And I think, and Christy and Gino believe, that the value of realtors hasn't been fully positioned to the public. And because of that, a lot of consumers don't recognize the value, and consequently, they perceive in some cases a real estate transaction to be a fee-inflated event which they must subsidize in order to promulgate an inefficiently run industry. Simply put, in some cases, they think they're being overcharged. Mm-hmm. That's not the case. If anything, consumers are being undercharged with all that goes into serving a real estate client and a real estate transaction. So we've created a forever agent marketing system, that being Wendy Durand, our Senior Vice President of Marketing. We have a forever agent coaching program developed by Bob Watson, our head of global network training. And so it's 17 marketing systems. It's a 12-month coaching program, because what we don't want to see is what's happening in the industry. Hundreds of thousands of realtors have decided to inform the public that they are real estate trusted advisors. Now, I personally own the URL Real Estate Trusted Advisor. So obviously I love that term, but there's no training, there's no coaching. If you go to national conventions, you don't see seminars on how to be a real estate trusted advisor. It was just this miraculous metamorphosis. It was this self-attributed proclamation, whereas we want to have serious coaching and development to help our people become true forever agents. And if you like, I can define what that means.
So please do.
Well, a forever agent is somebody who not only takes a pledge to our foundational values, but they also are committed to some of the following activities. Number one, they're coached and trained. These are our top producers, the best of the best. They're coached and trained on how to help people, how to help themselves to convert their database to a client base.
Mm-hmm.
You see, almost all coaching today is still focused on your database. Lucy, I could have the largest database here in the state of Connecticut in a month. I could buy the voter registration rolls for the Republican and Democratic Party, and I could walk around town as proud as a peacock. But in a month, I might be a feather duster because it has very little value to have a database. We have to evolve databases to client bases. You see, consumers have one doctor, one dentist, one financial planner, and they know 10 realtors. So how do you put an end to this real estate roulette? You've got to convert your database to your client base. So we have a whole series of activities on precisely how to do that. So it's not just a pithy little slogan. We also, to be a forever agent means that you never again use the expression, my past clients.
Mm-hmm.
See, the industry today in 2022, Lucy, is still throughout the industry collectively referencing the term, my past clients. Well, if a real estate agent is a past client, that means that everybody to these people, they're past agents. So to be a forever agent, you've got to eviscerate the concept of past clients. And one of the programs that we have for that is our real estate and lifestyle planning guide. We have a self-help guide that suggests to people that just like they have college plans, financial plans, they should really have a real estate plan. Because most people at some time in their life regret not owning enough real estate, and yet very few have ever been encouraged to put together an actual real estate and lifestyle plan. So that's what that process does. And then Christy Budnick has basically suggested to the whole network that they have annual reviews. And so what better way to have an annual review than to also introduce to prospects, clients, and to convert databases to client base than sitting down and encouraging people to take real estate so seriously that they actually develop a plan. Another part of being a forever agent is to close the real estate loyalty gap, because approximately 90% of people, according to the National Association of Realtors, indicate that they're going to return to their realtor, but less than 15% do.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real estate loyalty gap. And the last thing that we focus on is to help our precious agents throughout the global network to develop real estate ecosystems, because 95% of people, and most people live in their home now between 10 and 12 years, 95% of people surveyed and researched say that they're going to do a home improvement. But unfortunately, when homeowners in Connecticut or in California are deciding whether they should move or improve, put in a new kitchen or move up, they don't even call in their realtor. And because they don't, that realtor doesn't ultimately secure that listing, doesn't get the buying side of the transaction, and they don't get all of the referrals from all of the vendors and tradespeople. That's a serious problem, and that's what makes the industry very vulnerable, because if you don't have a real estate ecosystem, if you don't have people doing planning, if you don't convert your database to your client base, and if you just have a sphere of influence without influencing your sphere, you're going to be beset with past clients.
Well, that's what research and development is all about.
Exactly.
That's why you are part of the new direction that no one really pioneered yet and explored. So that is incredibly important, and I can see the value in everything you just said. And speaking about the value and the value you brought to Realtor.com when you were a chief executive officer, being a CEO of such powerful organization, what would you say your biggest contribution to change it, to change the direction, to improve it and bring it to another level?
Well, my biggest contribution was first and foremost recognizing the immense talent that surrounded me. In terms of the sales organization, we had 200 technologists,
Mm.
engineers. We had over 100 people in our service department in Phoenix, Arizona. And so it was basically bringing together, creating very coalitional and collaborative leadership.
Mhm.
And then some of the specific parts of my vision is that we had to help to educate the industry that Realtor.com didn't just represent technology, because a lot of people weren't comfortable or weren't evolved to the point where they were going to embrace technological changes. But the more that we helped them understand that Realtor.com represented indispensable content and marketing on behalf of home sellers, that it extended the value of the marketing of the realtor, because homeowners wanted multiple photos and more robust content. Buyers wanted access to information, but it was shaky starting out, because starting out, Lucy, there was a lot of resistance and resentment towards Realtor.com. And here are some of the reasons. A lot of the larger brokers has resented Realtor.com because we even the playing field, because we allowed every realtor and through every MLS to have their listing showcased. And some of the larger brokers didn't like the democratization of information like that. So there was resentment there. We also had resentment from the top producers, because they felt that they were subsidizing the Realtor.com experience for the lower producers that didn't spend any money on the site. Then the lower producers, they resented us because they felt that the top producers were able to buy greater results. But over time, people saw that this is in the best interest of the consumer, because initially the industry didn't love Realtor.com, but the consumers loved us. And at the end, it's all about consumerism. It's all about being client-centric. And so I basically created a lot of programs and turned it more into the Realtor.com marketing system than just another website.
Well, speaking of marketing system, which I also believe it's a great foundation for you. You always believed in strong marketing. Marketing strategy for every property is very important. And I think just as important is to stay with your marketing strategy. A lot of the times the agent will come in and do the presentation, get the listing, and then it's sold the next day. So they kind of skip through everything they just promised. What's your opinion, where you stand on sticking to your marketing strategy and completing everything you just spoke to your seller about?
Well, Lucy, it begins with the industry in general, and I don't mean to sound pompous or condescending here, but I'm very serious when I say this, that the industry struggles in its definition of marketing, because it tends to look at marketing more in terms of a transaction. Marketing the agent, marketing properties. But what's required to begin, I've always liked the plaque, watch your thoughts, because your thoughts lead to your words, actions, behavior, character, and your destiny. So what are your thoughts about marketing? I've asked tens of thousands of realtors to define marketing, and they'll say, well, it's personal promotion. It's giving people what they want. It's getting your brand out there. No, those are very inadequate definitions. Marketing, according to the experts at the university and the corporate level like Procter & Gamble and the like, would be this. Marketing means first determining the unmet needs of the marketplace, and then creating goods and services to effectively respond to those needs. So that means that a company, a brokerage has to first say, what are the unmet needs in the marketplace? Well, people are retiring. There's needs for senior lifestyles. People are moving up. Do we have a move-up system? People are deciding whether they move, improve, or relocate. What system do we have for that? What content? People are going from renters to first-time buyers. What is our program for that? Okay, what is our marketing program? Certainly, it's not sending out calendars or pumpkins. It's not no one's going to receive a pumpkin and say, gee, honey, I guess we should move up. Look at this pumpkin, okay? And I don't laugh and smile at this because this is very serious to me. I'm probably, Lucy, I'm probably too serious about this stuff. But the point is this, if somebody isn't rooted into a classic definition of marketing, they will conflate personal promotion with marketing. They'll conflate advertising with marketing. But they're distinct properties, and they have to be understood, because otherwise we never get to content. I coined the word years ago, contentsequences. Content carries consequences. And if somebody, for example, is deciding whether they should move or improve or relocate, or whether they should move up or not, we're not providing content with them when we're transactional. But a forever agent, we've created all of these self-help guides, digitally and physically, how to effectively move up, downsize with distinction, when to rent and when to buy, how to do real estate planning. That's marketing because that satisfies their needs. There's never been a consumer who hasn't been able to find properties. Okay, that's not as great a need as people deciding how can we increase the value of a home. That means putting together what we have for forever agents, clients-only service directories, home services directories. We like to say Berkshire Hathaway is who we are, and home services is what we do. And then Home Services of America, because of Ron Peltier and then Gino to follow, they're the embodiment of the importance of home services. Home services is relational. Transactions are different. They're not relational. And realtors have to make a distinction between their skills, their service, their personal service, and their home services. In fact, I encourage our network agents, our global network agents, to go through this exercise. Draw a circle as a pie chart and conclude what percentage of your value to the public is because of your skills. What percentage of your value is because of your personal service, because that's personal. Mm-hmm. Personal would be no matter what brand you were with. And then what percentage of your value is because of your home services. We're here in my home today. Later there'll be landscapers here. I've had roofers. All of this comes from our agent in all of the home services directory. That is invaluable. And that's where we have to evolve, is to go beyond the transaction. We still have too many realtors that advertise incessantly, when you're ready to buy or sell a home, give me a call. And the inference that the consumer has is, otherwise, I guess I shouldn't bother you. And it makes it look as though the realtors are all out there 100% just prospecting for new clients because they have all the time in the world because they're not serving their present clients. And so these are some of the changes that I think are required in terms of being a forever agent, especially.
You've been speaking so highly, and I totally agree with you, with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services and Home Services of America. What about other brands and agents that are part of different brands throughout our United States and Canada and globally?
Well, first of all of the challenges are not unique to either Berkshire Hathaway Home Services or Home Services of America. There's changes underway that will impact the future of the entire industry. And I'm completely dedicated to the entire industry. I would say this, first of all, we have to be prepared and understand that there's a movement towards democratization and decentralization of power, okay? So that brings us to blockchain, crypto, and the metaverse. When I was CEO of Realtor.com, on our board, we had a very distinguished group. We had one gentleman, his name was John Doerr, D-O-E-R. Mm-hmm. John funded Google, and he's a New York Times bestseller. And he used to tell me, along with Mike Long, who was the CEO of Home Store, Mike founded WebMD, and then we had this gentleman, Roger McNamee, who is called Mark Zuckerberg's mentor. He was featured in Time magazine last year, and he wrote the book Zucked. Mm-hmm. And then we had the founder of Nickelodeon, and all of these very sophisticated, futuristic thought leaders, they all basically reminded me, as CEO of Realtor.com, of the importance of sociology, because the real estate industry is still more mired in psychology. A lot of the coaching is still talking about the psychology of sales, and that's great. It's great to be able to put people in personality profiles. You're a D, you're an I, you're an S, you're a C. It's great to tell people if somebody leans forward, you should lean forward. If they cross their arms, you should cross your arms, okay? Or to say to them, how does this sound to you if they're auditory? Or how does this look to you if you're visual? Or how does this feel to you if you're tactile? But that's at the micro level of the funnel. At the macro level, okay, is sociology. Because I've heard realtors for years saying, people don't understand my value. I'm a salesperson, I'm a marketing person, I'm a network, I'm a stager, I'm a psychologist. I don't hear people saying, but I'm a sociologist. Mm-hmm. Sociology is more important to the future of this industry, to every realtor and to every company, than psychology will ever be. Psychology is the micro level, but 75% of homeowners only interview one agent. So most agents aren't going to lose the listing because they didn't say, how does this sound to you versus how does this feel to you? Mm-hmm. But they're not even going to have the opportunity to be at the micro level if they don't understand the macro level. And at the macro level, and I was mentioning John Doerr before I went into these other points. John Doerr used to say, Allan, do you know why Amazon was created? Why, John? To eliminate illiteracy in the world. Mike Long, the founder of WebMD. Allan, do you know why we created WebMD? To democratize medical information. That's what's happening in the world. The metaverse is basically a double distributed ledger, more tamper resistance, okay? It's basically to streamline the transaction and take out the inefficiency and the cost to help more people buy real estate. Crypto is to have a universal digital currency for a lot of sociological reasons, as is the metaverse. We don't have time to get into great detail about that, but the one thing I'll say, in fact, I said this, I spoke at the Inman conference on this, mm-hmm. and I'll say the same thing here, Lucy, if you'll indulge me, and that is this. For years, I used to hear so-called thought leaders, which I really privately concluded they were thought followers. They would all say the same thing, Lucy. You probably heard it. We've got to keep realtors at the center of the transaction. Mm-hmm. Oh, we've got to keep realtors at the middle of the transaction. That's precisely where disruptors, cyberspace carpetbaggers, and interlopers want to confine and limit realtor value to, just to the center of the transaction, where they control and influence consumers before, during, and after the transaction. So if people are saying, let's keep realtors at the center of the transaction, and then you have the advent of blockchain, and one of the purposes of blockchain, beyond the transcendent social purposes that I alluded to, is that they want to minimize the importance of the stakeholders to a transaction, which means all the more that realtor value has to be more relational. But it just can't be relational. It has to be real estate relevant relational. I used to hire former mayors of towns, and they couldn't secure a transaction. They had relationships. They had a sphere of influence, but they weren't real estate relevant relationships. And that's what every single broker, every brand, every agent has to do more. It's not enough just to say customers for life, that doesn't even make sense. No one has a customer for life. You'll have a client for life, but it's also putting together programs, content. It would be like a financial planner saying, Lucy, I'd love to be your financial planner, but I don't do financial planning. Oh, I'd love to be your realtor for life, but I don't do any planning with you. And so I hope the entire industry gets to the point where we get everybody doing planning. Everybody's in a client base versus a database. That would be my advice for the entire industry.
Allan, you've been talking about value a lot. Realtor who is talking about, I'm so valuable. The brokerages, we are valuable and we bring value to you, to a realtor. But it means so many different things and different things for different people. Can we talk about it?
Yes, Lucy, value is not going to be enough moving forward. Our last convention's theme was invaluable. That was Christy Budnick's theme. It's not enough, as I said, to be deliberately redundant, just to be valuable for a lot of different reasons. But speaking of value, see, the industry's greatest challenge is not image, it is value. When it comes to image, we couldn't be in better shape. We're prodigiously photoshopped as an industry. That's why sometimes I've said this in other forums. Somebody will say, gee, Susan, nice to meet you, but I thought your daughter was coming. Or, gee, Allan, it's nice to meet you, but I thought your son was coming tonight, because we are prodigiously photoshopped. We get a great image. We're also resplendently dressed. Who dresses up on the weekends other than realtors? Also, we invented personal promotion along with Hollywood. So we've got a great image in terms of personal promotion. As you know, Lucy, we're in the age of ratings and reviews. We've been writing our own reviews for the past 75 years, and they're always glowing. You know that. And then parking garages are brimming with our BMWs, Lexuses, and a litany of other automobiles. So we don't have an image problem. We have a value problem, as I mentioned earlier, and that's what we have to address. And one of the ways we can be more valuable is in the way we communicate. I've researched this. Essentially, the industry defaults to only 5 or 6 words to describe every home in North America. In fact, the world. Isn't it amazing that everybody lives in the same home? Because they all get described the same way. Here are the 6 words. Your home is lovely, beautiful, charming, gracious, spacious, and elegant. And everybody that's got a nice property, they must live in the same house. Because all the ads say the same thing. You probably read it. Ever hear professionally landscaped?
Yeah.
How about this one, park-like setting? That's why I created...
Open floor plan.
Exactly. That's why I created Dalton's Distinctive Dialogue. I've got about 20 pages of more descriptive ways to narrate homes. People say, I don't sell real estate, I sell lifestyle. Everybody says that. But you wouldn't know it in the way they communicate, because most agents will devote more attention to when they write the ad than when they're communicating with the homeowner. Because the most important question you can say to a homeowner is this: may I take a few moments to share with you the way I'd like to describe your home? That's the whole interview. That's the whole meeting. It's not even an interview. That's the whole presentation. Because it's all about the consumer. Sometimes realtors will be asked, well, what makes you different, Lucy? I always recommend that they say this: Lucy, rather than focusing on how I'm different, I'd rather focus on how we have to make your property different. You see, I don't compete against other agents here in Connecticut, but your home competes against other homes. I actually cooperate with all the other agents in the state, but your home doesn't cooperate, it competes. So the way that I'm different is how we're going to do the marketing and the networking of your home to point out what's different about your home. See, we have to show greater value in terms of how we communicate. We have 99.9% of realtors in the country that have actually used the word comps. Using the word comps is like saying to somebody, Lucy, let's take a look at some comparable children tonight. I brought some pictures. Oh, come on, they've got 2 arms and 2 legs. And as opposed to saying, let's take a look at properties which buyers will be evaluating at the same time they're evaluating your home. You can't have value if you're not communicating properly. You also can't have value if you think the market determines the price. Every single textbook I've seen since I've been in real estate says the same thing, and they're all catastrophically wrong. And I don't mean to sound either pompous or pedantic. Here's what they all say: the market determines the price. Thank God the market doesn't determine the price. See, the market determines the price in stocks. If you work for E-Trade and you sold $1 million of stock, maybe your fee would be $12 or $15. But how many real estate agents would be willing to accept a $20 commission for selling $1 million home? I don't think we'd have any takers. But why would they deserve any more if the market determines the price? The market has never determined the price of what a home sells for. It only influences it. What determines it? The buyer agent, the seller agent, the lender, the appraiser. But these aren't issues of semantics, Lucy. If a realtor goes through their entire career thinking that the market determines the price, they're eviscerating their value. They're internalizing low value. They're stepping on their own ear hose. They're reducing their significance. So too, if a realtor goes through their entire career thinking the only reason a home doesn't sell is because it's overpriced, that's also catastrophic. There's only one reason a home doesn't sell. That's because of ineffective marketing, because price is part of marketing. These aren't semantical issues. We have no value when we have these universally accepted prisms. Moreover, if somebody is still making what's called a listing presentation, we still have coaches out there actually teaching agents how to make listing presentations. There's not a homeowner in society that ever wants to have a listing presentation. They all want marketing proposals, but these aren't just like pithy changes. These aren't just different slogans. This isn't semantics, because thoughts lead to words, actions, behavior, character, and destiny. And if somebody's making a listing, if somebody actually thinks to have a listing presentation tomorrow night, what do you think they're going to make? A listing presentation. A listing presentation is about the agent. A marketing proposal is about the homeowner. A listing presentation is performative. A marketing proposal is collaborative. A listing presentation is to educate. A marketing proposal is to activate. So there's hundreds of changes that we have to evolve to really discover and then manifest our greater value. Because to me, no one has any value as a marketing person if they think the only reason a home doesn't sell is because of price, is if they have no influence, or if they think the market determines the price, if they're talking about comps, as opposed to saying, let's take a look at properties which buyers will be evaluating at the same time they're evaluating your home. Because 100% of the income of realtors in any brand and every brokerage is based on how they're communicating, often online. And that's why communication is inextricably interwoven with value, and especially perceived value.
Thank you, Allan. I couldn't say it any better, and I greatly appreciate that you are separating marketing strategy with listing presentation. That is definitely two completely different directions that agents should be thinking about. So you spoke quite a bit about the importance of the market situation, and where is our market today taking us?
Well, it's funny. That's a question that has been vexing to the industry for decades. Where's the market headed? Where's this going? In what direction? What troubles me is that I've never heard or read an article that suggested that here's where we're going to take the market.
Okay.
So it basically, we're surrendering all of our power and influence. It makes the industry look completely feckless, as if we have no influence or control. That's why in 2008, when the marketplace tanked all over the world because of underperforming real estate mortgages, so it was a real estate inspired crisis, everybody else that was a stakeholder to real estate transactions was criticized. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Bonnie Frank, mortgage companies, lenders, credit bureaus, everybody else in the world was blamed, but the real estate industry wasn't. I wonder why we didn't receive any blame. Because the public has come to learn that the real estate industry has very little influence on when people buy, sell a home. That's why we advertise when you're ready to buy, sell a home. So we're facilitating transactional needs as opposed to advising people when they should buy or sell. And the more that we can advise people of when to buy and sell, the more we'll be able to think or incorporate as part of that answer, here's where the industry is going to take society or in this marketplace. Because remember, it's never a market, okay? It's never a monolithic market. Just like it's not the stock market, it's a market of stocks. It's not a real estate market, it's all individual opportunities within a marketplace. And so I think it's almost irresponsible for me to predict where the market is headed, because I wouldn't want anybody to advise their clients based on my observation.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And that certainly clears up quite a bit. And I certainly hope that the market will take us to better places and we will have more inventory and it will be easier to buy and sell the house. And speaking of that, well, let's talk about reputation. You actually spent a lot of time today on brand and reputation. Online reputation is extremely important. The consistency is important. Yes, image, and we were talking about images, looking good at every single image. It's very important. Your Facebook, your Instagram, LinkedIn. What about online reputation on your Google business page?
Well, we're talking about couple things at the same time here. We're talking about social media and reputation. Staying with reputation, I think the industry, most top producers have wonderful reputations. They just don't have the perception of great value within the consumer. I did research when I was with at Realtor.com. I spent $150,000 on a research project for the board to ask who people turn to when they have a real estate need for advice. And realtors came in third. The real estate professionals were third. Above us were attorneys and financial planners. So that just shows that we can be respected, but not valued. We can be liked and not valued. But in terms of online reputation, okay, I think people have to make a distinction. There's a major difference between social media. So there's a major difference, forgive me, between social networking, social media, and social media marketing. But people tend to conflate all three. That's why I'm creating a social media marketing certification for our brand. Social networking is about making and keeping friends. Social media is bringing content to these platforms. Social media marketing is monetizing this content. So I may post a video of my trip to Niagara Falls or a wedding anniversary. That's social networking. That's not social media. Okay, so so the best way to build value is to be bringing content to these platforms. But when people conflate them all, they can come across to a homeowner as at the level of evolution of their children or grandchildren using TikTok and Facebook and Instagram, because they haven't shown that they understand the distinction between social networking, social media, and social media marketing. So my advice is this. When somebody is taking their time or expense, they should be asking themselves, because you have to do all three. There are people that have a lot of friends in social networking, but don't do much business, okay, because they're not doing social media. There's people doing social media and blogs who do very little business because they don't have a lot of following in social networking. And then there's people that I could hire the real estate writer from the New York Times. They could have a world-class blog. That doesn't mean they're going to do real estate transactions because they're not monetizing the content, okay? So if somebody, for example, is sending out a link, like I've created a lot of content. One thing is I have a program called Moving with Pets. So people will bring that, our agents will bring that to open houses because something like 71% of everybody, all homeowners have a pet. I believe that the homeowners have more affection towards their pets than the realtor, okay? So if they go to an open house, if there's a choice between me picking up biographical information about the realtor or a guide how to move with pets, they're going to take the move with pets. But the more that people are using content like how to pay your property taxes, when to move, how to downsize, how to do real estate planning, that's social media marketing as opposed to just continuing to do social networking or just social media that isn't relevant. But it all begins with the definition of marketing. What are the unmet needs of the marketplace? Because you could be posting content. For example, you could spend a lot of time posting properties on Facebook. That's irrelevant to the market for this reason. People know where to go to find homes. They'll go to Realtor.com where there's millions of properties. They'll go to Zillow. They're not going to go to Facebook to find a property. And so if somebody thinks that that's social media marketing, it isn't. It's misguided.
Well, that certainly makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes, there is a direction. There are two different directions that should be adopted by the agent. I would also like to spend a few minutes on cryptocurrency.
Okay, great.
That everyone is getting so scared, blockchain and NFT, and the agents are just terrified when they hear those words. What's your opinion on that, and where is it taking us?
Well, I'm glad you asked me what's my opinion, because I'm going to speculate. I'm going to give you my opinion of what's happening. First of all, I think what's happening in the world is that there's an epic battle taking place between digital socialism and digital capitalism. And I'm not making a value judgment about each. I'm just speaking sociologically right now. Going back to Amazon to eliminate illiteracy, WebMD to democratize medical information, Web 1.0 was just providing information. Web 2.0 was interactive. Now we're talking about Web 3.0. The problem that people have with Facebook, it was the democratization of information, but it wasn't the democratization of governance. And people think there were abuses. So there's movements. There's social justice movements. There's movements of decentralization and democratization. Crypto is a global digital currency. That means that there's hundreds of thousands and millions of people around the world that don't have access to banking and financial services. Cryptocurrency is earmarked to be able to ameliorate that. Number one, a lot of people are in countries with devalued currency, war-torn countries. So So a populist movement is so everybody in the world can have the same currency with the same valuation. And then obviously because it's digital, okay, it takes a lot of the, it's 24/7, it's 365 days a year, it's more convenient, okay? And so crypto is something that it will be interesting how it plays out, because there's competing forces for it and there's competing forces against it. Blockchain, which requires crypto to perform, blockchain would be less contentious if it didn't have any relationship with crypto, which it does, because it's going to make transactions more efficient. It's less tamper resistant, so people don't have to worry about moving their servers away from earthquake zones or whatever. So that's very progressive, and it's going to reduce the cost of transactions. And it's a distributed ledger, so it's all transparent. So you've got to separate blockchain from crypto to the metaverse. But crypto is very controversial, very contentious. There's people that it's not just about currency, it's a social movement. For that reason, Gino, Christy, and myself, we created a 4-point strategy around blockchain and crypto and the metaverse. Strategy number 1 was to educate. We have to educate our agents, and we have to help our agents educate the public. Because for years, somebody would say, how's the market? And realtors used to actually say, it's unbelievable, or I've never been busier. Some lame explanation, which didn't show that they were a real estate trusted advisor with their brain in high gear. We're not going to get away when people say, well, tell me about crypto. Oh, it's unbelievable. Oh, it's great. It's something, isn't it? So we have to educate. And we are educating our networks about blockchain, crypto, and the metaverse. The second thing is that we want to facilitate. We want to facilitate because Berkshire Hathaway Home Services and Home Service of America represent either 1 or 2 companies in the world in terms of number of transactions. So we have an enormous stake and footprint in the world of transactions. Anything that is good for the consumer, we feel is good for us. We don't want to operate in an environment that isn't in the best interest of consumers and clients. So we need to be prepared to facilitate those consumers that want to transact with the use of crypto as their choice, their currency of choice. Then we have to elevate. We're going to have to elevate our value, because if blockchain becomes more popular, then that will erode some of the value, possibly in terms of stakeholders to the transaction, which means that our value has to become even more expressed throughout the whole continuum. And then we want to procreate. We want to create, like everything we do, because, for example, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, we're an aspirational brand. So we relate to the whole spectrum of buyers and sellers. We're a for everyone brand. Our brand is a real estate leader in trust and innovation. We can document the trust with statistics, and innovation goes well beyond the technology. So if we're going to remain a leader in trust and innovation, we have to serve the needs of everybody. That's why we're for everyone. And we've got to maintain our position as a real estate leader in trust and innovation. That means educating, facilitating, upgrading, and procreating all around these 3 potential juggernauts, if you will, but that remains to be seen.
Well, finishing on a great positive note, let's talk about Sunshine Kids Foundation. As VHT Studios, we participate every year throughout the country in the Sunshine Kids Foundation and raising funds and providing photography. I spent a few days in Orlando with children. We actually interviewed the kids. It was amazing. They're so strong and so passionate and help each other. And it's such a great cause. And at the same time, your participation in the community is so important. So Berkshire Hathaway Home Services and Home Services of America, it's very important.
Well, the Sunshine Kids is right up there with the 4 foundational values, okay? Sunshine Kids is the charity of choice of our global network, and it's extremely and immensely important to each of us. We're sitting here in Fairfield, Connecticut, and our broker here, Candace Adams, a few years ago, they were the #1 in the entire global network at fundraising for the Sunshine Kids. I know you interviewed Ray Mesa. Ray Mesa has been an ardent supporter, a very generous leader for the Sunshine Kids for many, many years. At our conventions, it seems like it's half of our convention is about the Sunshine Kids. And so that's a extremely meaningful, transcendent concern and cause for our network. And I want to thank you and your company, Lucy,
Thank you.
for reinforcing this and contributing to this. It means the world to our networks.
Thank you, Allan. Yeah, it's a pleasure, and we are a consistent participant in working with Berkshire Hathaway
And
Home
thank you
Services.
for that.
Well, thank you, Allan, so much. It was an amazing, amazing interview. Appreciate your time, and all the topics that we have covered are just really fully well explained, and I'm sure that everyone will benefit.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My pleasure and privilege.
Thank you.